Today's video is about the game Angerfoot. So feel free to just sit back, relax, and listen. Fuck. Sorry for the noise. To me talk about this game, because I think it's an absolute fucking blast. Angerfoot is a visceral first-person shooter, kind of reminiscent of a game like Hotline Miami, but this one's got drip, baby. You're walking around with your fresh kicks, kicking down doors and kicking some ass. Walking from room to room, you're just beating the shit out of these fucking crocodile fucks. And it's fun. It's really, really fun. I really have enjoyed my time with this game so far. I literally have like 10 minutes in it, but it was enough time for me to want to sit down and talk to you guys about why exactly I feel like this game is so fucking excellent. So let's get into it. The coolest thing about this game is just its style. Looking at it is a treat. You're walking around, you got these little crocodile guys and shit. Your character looks cool. All of the rooms and stuff look cool. There's so much stuff to walk around and kick, as that's kind of your main form of interacting with the world, is just kicking the shit out of stuff. You can kick around shopping carts. You can kick down doors. You can kick down baddies. Down baddies. And then, so yeah, it's exciting to do, and feels good. It feels very, very good. The audio in the game is also pretty good. Obviously, this is an indie game. It's from itch.io. It is free to download and free to play. I'm not actually sure what state of development this game is in, but the audio, at the very least for being an indie game, is great. The song fucking pulsing in your ears constantly as you go from room to room until you kill all of the enemies, and then the music de-escalates back down to just this baseline, and then re-escalates the moment that you go into a new room, and now there's more enemies to get rid of, to kill. And looking around the rooms, you can see amps in the corners blasting the music. They're bouncing to the beat of the song that is playing. Just the game itself, looking at it, playing it, it is a visual, auditory, and somatosensory experience. It's not somatosensory, but it feels like it. Like, you really, just playing the game, you just fucking get into it. It's definitely the kind of game where if I wasn't trying to make a video on it, I would definitely just be sitting down and playing the game without even thinking about what it is that I'm actually doing. The game itself is just really fucking fun. I highly, highly recommend it. One thing about the game, one thing about the kicking of the game, the kicking and screaming, is that it feels good. That's honestly, I think that's just the best thing about games, that it feels good. Speaking of kicking, though, when I was a boy, my mom actually, I don't know how many other people, I guess, have had this experience, but I feel like it's a pretty common one. Being scared as a child, you have a nightmare or something, and you go and you sleep in your parents' bed or whatever. So I would be a 6-year-old kid or something. I had a nightmare. I'm scared. I go upstairs to my parents' room. I climb into bed with them, right in between my mom and dad, on a king-size bed. Or maybe it was a queen-size. I'm not sure, actually. It's a large bed, though. Enough to fit 2 adults and a 6-year-old. But while I was sleeping, I would wake up in the morning to my mom telling me that she hates me sleeping in there because I would kick her off the bed. Like, physically, like, while I'm sleeping, my body would, like, go horizontal, and I'd, like, roll into her while kicking and just push her off the bed. As a fucking child, I had a vendetta against my mom, I guess. Just this subconscious, mid-REM, like, my subconscious activates with, like, the anti-Oedipal complex or something that forces me to just eject my mother from my life, and most importantly, from my bed space. There's also a time, how old would I have been? I think I was maybe 4 years old. 4 or 3, I think. Our family was taking a vacation to Florida. We were going to Orlando to go to Universal and I think Disney. I was really young, though. I don't really remember a whole lot of it. I feel like I remember a Spider-Man ride where you wear, like, 3D goggles or something. But I don't even know if that was real. Like, I think that might have actually just been a fucking dream. But one thing that was real is that I peed on my mom on the airplane to Orlando twice on the same airplane trip. I was a toddler, so I'm sitting down on my mom's lap. Supposedly at this point I was potty trained. I don't know, though. I don't really remember, other than just my mom telling me that I was sitting down on her lap, and then I just started peeing, just all over her. And so then she got up, the flight attendant came over and helped. My mom had to sit for the rest of the flight in pea-soaked clothes. This was maybe an hour and a half into a 6 or 7 hour long flight. And so my mom had to sit in her pea-soaked clothes. I got all my clothes taken off and a blanket put around me, and I was just sitting down on my mom's lap. And then I peed again a few hours later, all over her. And so now she was sitting in double pea-soaked clothes. And I was still naked on an airplane. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of like one of those moments that I peaked at the end of the day. Like, there's no coming down from that kind of high. You know, even when the plane landed, my spirits were still 35,000 feet off the ground. But yeah, so that was a blast. Speaking of airplanes, though, I think that one thing that's really interesting nowadays is, or I guess to talk about, to think about, is the way that the world has changed, like, pretty drastically since the invention of cars and planes and even horse-drawn carriages. But mostly with cars. Once cars were introduced, I feel like the entire landscape changed. Physically, and also, like, from, I guess, a more metaphorical sense. Stuff was really, really different after cars got introduced. And then even more different 90 years later when the internet got introduced as well. And I think the internet is fucking wonderful. It is an amazing, amazing tool that I am glad exists. However, I do think that it does have some issues. Kuncan Dastner, I was watching a YouTube video of his earlier today that I really, really enjoyed. It was about the Sienna Mae controversy, and mostly his take on it wasn't to do with the controversy itself, but instead to do with the reaction of the internet towards the controversy. That would be like the way that people have taken it and made a meme and a mockery of the situation, when instead there should be a serious conversation going on around it. And I think he made some really, really interesting points throughout the video. He ends up going on to compare it to the Kanye West situation, relating this idea of, like, encouragement and memery and mockery of these really serious things going on, being like there's a similar attitude with the Kanye West stuff as well, of people kind of going at the situation from a way of mocking it in order to continue riling up Kanye West, and then onto the Russia-Ukraine situation. Where Kuncan then starts talking about how people are, you know, posting memes, posting the same jokes over and over, similar to how they are with Sienna Mae. And that these are things that we should be having conversations about, but instead people are just resorting to memes and jokes and really boring and overdone jokes to have conversations about this stuff. Instead of having actual hard talks about the things that are going on, they're resorting to lighthearted jokes. And I thought that that was a really interesting point, and I think that that's something that the internet has really done, is now that you can fucking work from home, you can work in San Francisco from Atlanta, you know? There's so much more distance between us as internet users and the rest of the world. And I think that that's an interesting thing to talk about, just in the sense that it's bizarre. Just like we exist in a very, very strange time, an absolutely wonderful time where ideas are able to disseminate so quickly, but because of that, first off, we're apathetic because we're getting bombarded with so much negativity constantly, because you're hearing instantly the terrible news of something like the Russia-Ukraine situation or the Afghanistan situation that happened a year ago or so. Stuff like that. You're constantly getting attacked by all this negativity, and honestly, That's what these companies that are pushing this kind of stuff want, as well as it's also what we as consumers want too. Even though we hate to admit it, none of us are fucking reading articles that are boring and non-sensationalized. None of us are. Sensationalism drives clicks, and it's also what we as consumers want. Or at the very least, the majority of consumers want. You personally, I can't speak for you. But I think that this distance and this bombardment ends up leading to this apathy towards all of the terrible stuff that's going on that just leads to us treating every single new terrible thing as a new muse for our jokes and our memes. And this is the way that we communicate now, is not through sincerity and clarity and just being human beings with each other, but instead through distance and meta-irony and apathy. And I don't know, I just think that's interesting. I think it's interesting that the internet has led us to a point like that. However, not to say that I hate the internet, or that I think that the internet shouldn't exist, or that the internet has not been an amazing benefit to society. Just something that I thought was interesting, and something that I thought that Kuncan did a good job of talking about in his video, and I just kind of wanted to add my own 2 cents to it. But since cars and since the internet, human beings have been different, and the way that we engage with each other has been different. Anyways, if you've got angry feet, I highly recommend Anger Foot. This game is a blast, this game is fun, and if I wasn't making a video about it, I would still be playing it. So take that as you will, and try out a free game, because it's cool, and it's exciting. And stay safe out there.